Let's rank Derby County's transfers now that we've got a few games played in this season. We're going to discuss all the players that left this summer as well as those players who decided to join John Eustace at Moor Farm. We're going to give them all a rating between 1 and 5, 5 being the best, 1 being the worst, and you can let me know your thoughts down in the comments and even give your opinions and your ratings down below as well. We're going to start off with the outgoing, so let me know your thoughts down below. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, but let's get into it. Now, starting off with players who moved out in the summer, we're going to start off with Nathaniel Mendez-Laing. Now, I think I spoke about it last season in regards to Mendez-Laing, where I thought his contract extension that he was given until 2026 was one that didn't make much sense in terms of us as a football club, his age and things like that. And I wasn't surprised to see him leave in the summer. When it happened and where he went was the surprising thing for me. But it's a deal that I think is a 5. I think it is a great deal for both club and player. It gave Derby County money in terms of wage spend and things like that. And ultimately, it gave Mendez-Laing the opportunity to go and play under Paul Warne yet again, who ultimately discovered his best form when he returned to Derby County. Well, when he came to Derby County anyway. We then go on to Connor Washington, who went up for a free transfer. He joined Matlock Town. Again, 5. Letting him go, unbelievable decision. Smart decision, the best decision you can ever make. Was never really going to be a part of the squad. The fact he was bought in the first place was a bit iffy. I thought he was actually fairly decent in the games he played in League One, but ultimately the injury record is what caused a lot of the problems for me. So for me, I'd give that a 5, letting him go. You look at Tom Barkes and Tabarro, again, another player who I think I'm going to give a 5 for letting him go. I think it's a smart move. Letting him move on. I don't think he should have been at Derby County much longer anyway. I believe he wouldn't have stayed at Derby County last season if he hadn't have hit an appearance-based extension. But it's one of those for me. Him going and ending up at Barrow and Mendez-Laing at MK and Connor Washington at Matlock, I think speaks volumes of where they sort of should be in terms of their age and things like that. We now talk about Darren Robinson, who was sent to St Patrick's Athletic on loan, I believe, until about the end of November. I'm going to give this deal a 1. I think that Darren Robinson needed an opportunity to play in the EFL, whether that be League 2 or League 1. I think he's got the quality to play over here. Now, the problem with saying that is that ultimately he's not been a huge part of St Pat's since joining, and I don't actually think he started a game. I think he might have started one in the European competitions, but ultimately he's not really had an opportunity to go and play out there, and I think that's sort of the problem with why I believe this is a 1. Because you send him out to go and get experience and play football and he doesn't play, which is one of the reasons why, for me, I would have sent him to maybe a League 2, maybe even a National League club, to give him that opportunity to sort of build into the future and potentially become a player at Derby County. But if I'm completely honest with you, I don't think we'll see Darren Robinson suit up for the first team unless there's a major injury crisis in the second half of the season. So for me, Darren Robinson is a 1. We then go on to Dejan Brown. He's gone to Port Vale. I believe he's made 8 appearances, picking up 1 assist so far this season. I'm going to give this a 2.5 at the moment. I think he's getting playing time, which is fine. But he went to Port Vale before they brought in Devante Cole, and Devante Cole seems to realistically have taken that spot that Dejan Brown probably would have had. And for me, I want Dejan Brown playing football. I think Dejan Brown has quality. Do I think he's going to end up being a championship player? I'm not entirely sure, but I think he's got to be given an opportunity to play. And I do think Dejan Brown, a bit like Darren Robinson, will probably end up on another loan with a different club from January. But we will wait and see what happens with that one. I think Deja's a very good player. He's got a lot of potential, but ultimately, if he's not going to be playing games, he's not really going to be developing. I know you've got to earn your spot and things like that, but ultimately you can't really earn your spot if you're only getting 15-20 minutes off the bench, which is exactly the conversation I was having about Dejan Brown this time last year in regards to the way that Paul Warne was using him and things like that, because I felt that Dejan Brown could have had a lot more opportunities alongside the likes of Jerry Yates and James Collins across the course of the start of last season. But ultimately, that is just part and parcel of football. So for me, that is between a 2 and a 2.5, but you can let me know your thoughts on that down below. Next, we go on to Kane Wilson. He obviously left. It was a bit of a shocking move, this one. I didn't anticipate this one, didn't expect it. But when you think a little bit deeper into it, it is a smart move by Derby County. And I think if you look at the injury that he's sustained since leaving, I think it speaks volumes. I'm going to give this a 4 because I'm going to give it a 4, so it's a positive move for Derby, because if he could have stayed, obviously he would have had an impact for the club, would have had an impact under John Eustace, but ultimately that injury record, that injury problem that he continues to be having with his knee is the situation that makes this really, really hard to discuss, because obviously I believe personally, I don't know about you, that a fit Kane Wilson was one of the best fullbacks in the division. Well, wing backs in the division, not necessarily fullbacks, because that includes defending. So for me, it's a 4 because Derby County picks up some cash out of it, and ultimately they replaced him with someone, in my opinion, who is a better player. I believe Max Johnston all round is a better defender, better attacker, better everything than Kane Wilson. And then we go on to the loan players then. You've got Jake Rooney. At the moment, I'm giving this a 2, a bit like... In fact, no, I'm going to give it a 1. Like Darren Robinson, he hasn't played enough. Has not played enough at Barnsley for me. Now, his playing time may come, his playing time may not. But at the moment, I'd be pulling him back in January and sending him to a different club, because realistically, he needs to be playing football. That's the only way he's going to develop, and it's the only way he's going to get better and prove that he should be playing in the first team. But obviously, you can let me know your thoughts on that in the comments. In terms of Ben Osborne, I think that's a 5. A player who has his injury problems. I don't think he's ever really going to have been a starter for Derby County this season anyway. I think it was a smart decision to let him go, to be honest with you. And then on to Kenzo Helpmine. I'm going to give this one a 2, if I am honest with you, because I believe that Kenzo should have been a part of Derby's squad this season. I think he's got quality that the club need and that the midfield needs, but ultimately was never really given the proper opportunity to shine in his position under the new management of John Eustace. Didn't really get much opportunity last season, didn't get much opportunity during pre-season to play that sort of furthest forward 8 role that I think is his best position, and ultimately for me that's why I'm not particularly a big fan of this move to go ahead Eagles, but it's one of those things. Now let's talk about those incoming transfers. Obviously Derby County brought in a couple of strikers, a couple of midfielders and a fair few defenders. We're going to start off with Carlton Morris. As of right now, this deal is a 5. I think Carlton Morris has been probably by far our best player this season. I think he's an unbelievable talent, and obviously I think he's 29 years of age, scored 4 in 4, needs to pick up a couple more goals, but ultimately, in my opinion, has been our best player this season, so I'm going to give that a 5. Danny Barr, I'm going to give a 2. Don't necessarily think he's played enough, and ultimately I think when he has played, I think you've seen the frailties in his game because of his age and things like that. But ultimately, the experience behind the scenes will be great for some of the young talents at the club. You look at players like Sondre Langash, you look at players like Matt Clark. They will learn a lot off having someone like Danny Barr in the club, in my opinion, so we give that one a 2. Andreas Weimann, I'm going to give that a 2 as well. Although he's played more than Barr and has contributed, ultimately I think he hasn't yet shown us exactly what he claimed he was going to in terms of the Andy Weimann, that is goals and stuff like that. Now obviously that is also going to be a result of him having a lack of playing time, but ultimately I need to see a bit more from Andreas Weimann. In terms of Patrick Agyemang, I'm going to give him a 3.5. Very good player from what we've seen. I think there's a few things that he needs to fix, a few things that he needs to learn upon. And I do think he'll get there. I do think he'll be brilliant. And when you've got the likes of Carlton Morris and Lars-Jørgen Selverson to learn from, I think he'll be perfectly fine. But ultimately at the moment, I think there's still a bit more that he needs to learn in terms of the English game and sort of going forward in that respect. So we give that one a 3.5. Next up then, we've got Owen Beck. Haven't seen him, so a 1. And that's all I can say on that, to be honest. Then you've got David Ozo. I think the signing of David Ozo was a 4. I think the usage of David Ozo is a 1. I think he should be a starter at Derby County on no uncertain terms. And I think the fact that he's been playing second fiddle to Ibu Adams is horrific, to be quite honest with you. But obviously you can let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments. Next up then, Rhian Brewster. I'm going to give that a 2. Purely because of the injury situation that we've dealt with at the moment. Obviously came in, wasn't fit. He wasn't injured, but he wasn't fit. Then gets fit, plays a couple of games, and ultimately is out then for, what was he out for? 4 weeks, 5 weeks? Only got him back up against Southampton. Hopefully he can stay fit for the large majority of the rest of the season. And I do believe that that rating will massively fly up, in my personal opinion. We've then got Bobby Clark. I'm going to give that a 3 so far. I don't think we've maximised his ability as of right now, but I think he's shown glimpses of what a brilliant player he could be. He really gives me Mason Mount vibes. Obviously, you can let me know your opinion on that down in the comments. Then we've got Dion Sanderson. I'm going to give that a 2.5. Started off very shaky. If I made this video after Stoke City or Coventry, would probably be saying a 1. But I'm going to give it a 2.5. I think he's easing into the season. He's getting better and better as every game passes. And I think he's going to be a huge part of Derby County for the foreseeable future while John Eustace is in charge, to be honest. And I think he's shown quality over recent weeks. Then we go on to Lewis Travis, a big spend. Don't necessarily think we've seen the best of Lewis Travis, but I think he's a player that very much has quality that we can use and abuse, essentially. He's very good sort of at talking to referees, very good at getting in the heads of the opposition. I'm going to give it a 3 as of right now, but I think there's a possibility it could go up to a 4 or a 5, if I am completely honest. Now, in terms of Max Johnston, again, similar to Lewis Travis, I don't think we've seen the best of Johnston, sorry. And I think there's a lot to learn from Max Johnston going forward, but I do think he'll get there. He hasn't played European competitions for no reason. Let me tell you that for a fact. And then finally, Ben Brereton-Diaz. At the moment, I'm going to give it a 1.5. I don't quite think is what we needed, but I think we had to go out and get something in those wide areas. And if he can have an impact and score a few more goals, I think we'll be absolutely fine. But we're going to have to wait and see sort of how that develops over the course of the next few months. And obviously you can let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments. Now, if you have not done so already, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell. And I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye, guys.